Shalom, this is Yair, Davidiy speaking from the land of Israel. Today we are going to discuss something about the blessings to Jacob and the story of Esau, the story of Jacob and Esau. Just to remind you that the Hebrew nations, the nations of the Israelite tribes, the people about whom the Bible speaks, the people of whom the Bible is concerned with, the chosen people, the people of Israel. They are descended from Abraham, Isaac and Jacob. First it was Abraham, then there was Isaac, then there was Jacob. Jacob was renamed Israel. Jacob, or Israel as he was later called, had 12 sons. These 12 sons became the 12 tribes of Israel. From the 12 tribes of Israel came all of the Israelite peoples, all of the Israelite tribes. And they were together in the land of Israel. They conquered the land of Israel from the Canaanites and they settled in it. And there was King David, there was King Solomon, and after King Solomon came King Rehoboam, or Rehoboam, as his name is translated right in English translations, Rehoboam. And in his time, the 10 tribes, the 10 northern tribes of the Israelites, they rebuilt. They set up their own independent kingdom in the north, whereas in the south was the kingdom of Judah. The kingdom of Judah comprised the tribes of Judah, of Benjamin, of the Levites, and of refugees or remnants from the other tribes. The northern kingdom was conquered by the Assyrians. All of its inhabitants were taken away. They were exiled, they lost consciousness of their ancestry, they disappeared from history, and they are known as the Lost 10 Tribes. We trace them to peoples who settled in Western Europe, and after that also helped found North America and other places, and they are not aware on the whole of their ancestry. At all events, the ancestors of the Israelite nation, as we said, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Abraham begat Isaac. Isaac married Rebekah. The name Rebekah in Hebrew is Rivka. Isaac married Rebekah. Rebekah was barren. She could not have children. So Isaac prayed for her, and she became pregnant, and she felt that there were twins inside of her who were struggling, and it was in such a way that she felt that she had to go and clarify. She had to ask God Almighty to what was going on. She felt that it was something beyond the realm of the ordinary, something that needed a supernatural explanation. So she went to inquire of the Almighty as to what was happening. She felt the twins struggling inside her, and she understood that this is something supernatural, something out of the ordinary. She went to a prophet, or she went to inquire of God Almighty as to what was happening, and she was told that 2 nations would be separated from her womb. From these 2 sons would come 2 separate nations, and they would struggle against each other throughout the generations. And the younger would have the prophecy. The younger would be predominant. And that was a message given to Rivka. Rivka is the name for Rebekah in Hebrew. Rivka or Rebekah, she was the mother of these 2 sons. So we are told in the Bible, so Genesis 25, verse 21, Isaac prayed to the Lord on behalf of his wife because she was barren. And the Lord answered him, and Rebekah his wife conceived. But the children struggled together within her, and she said, it is so, then why am I this way? So she went to inquire of the Lord. The Lord said to her, 2 nations are in your womb, and 2 peoples will be separated from your body, and 1 people shall be stronger than the other, and the older shall serve the younger. Verse 24, when the days to be delivered were fulfilled, behold, there were twins in her womb. Now the first came forth red all over like a hairy garment. They named him Esau. The name Esau in Hebrew is pronounced as Esau. Esau, later also known as Edom. The Edomites The Edomites were to settle to the southeast of Judah, in the south of the land of Israel, but they also had enclaves, enclaves or military groups and colonies, one could say, throughout the Middle East, in Babylon, in Tyre, the Phoenicians, in what is now Turkey, in Armenia, and after that amongst numerous nations throughout the earth. They helped establish the Kingdom of Japan and the Kingdom of China and Russia and Germany, and numerous nations throughout all the earth received their foundational element from Esau, from Edom, especially nations associated with Europe. Now we don't say that all these peoples are descended from Esau. We say that those who founded them came from Esau, and there's still descendants of Esau amongst them. Esau of Edom, Edomites amongst them, and somehow or other this Esau element influences the national character and certain trends of thought that determine their actions and their behaviour. So that is what we say, that is what we understand, is how we understand it. And it says afterwards in verse 26, we're getting back to the quotation from the Bible. Genesis 25 verse 26 says, afterwards his brother came forth with his hand, holding on to Esau's heel. He grabbed the heel. First Esau came out, then another son came out holding on to his heel. So his name is called Jacob, and Isaac was 60 years old when she gave birth to them. And then in Hebrew, the word for heel is Akev. And in Hebrew grammatical structure, the name Yaakov is as if someone is healing, is grabbing the heel. That is where the name Yaakov comes from. And so we have this name, and this name Yaakov also has other connotations, as we shall see. So Esau was the firstborn. Jacob came afterwards clutching the heel of Esau. And that is how Jacob got his name. The name Jacob derives from a Hebrew word meaning heel. And later Esau sold his birthright to Jacob. So the Bible tells us now, remember Esau was the firstborn, and Esau had the firstborn right, and later he sold it to Jacob. And the Bible tells us in Genesis 25, verse 27 onwards, Genesis 25, chapter 25, verse 27 onwards. Now, when the boys grew up, Esau became a skillful hunter. He was a hunter, a man of the field. The man of the field is also in Hebrew can connote someone who occupied with spiritualism, with witchcraft, one could say. So this also has importance. He was a man of the field, but Jacob was a peaceful man, living in tents. Now Isaac loved Esau. Esau was a he-man. He was a macho type. He was the type of person who many men like to see their sons come up, have this quality. It is attractive to males. It is appealing to males to see their children have this manly type of aspect about them. This is what Esau had. Esau had it. And Isaac loved him because of it. So, he came in. Esau was a skillful hunter, a man of the field, and he came in when Jacob had cooked a meal, tavshil, something to eat. Jacob had prepared it, and Esau came in, and Esau was tired. It's translated as famished. What does it mean famished? Ayef in Hebrew means he was very tired, he was exhausted. And Esau said to Jacob, please let me have a swallow of that red stuff, therefore I am famished, as it is translated. And Esau said to Jacob, please let me have a swallow of that red stuff, therefore I am famished. Therefore his name was called Edom. Edom means red. He wanted the red stuff, so he's called Edom. But Jacob said, first sell me your birthright. Esau said, behold, I'm about to die. So what use is a birthright to me? I'm about to die. And Jacob said, first swear to me, promise, and so he swore to him, and he sold his birthright to Jacob. Then Jacob gave Esau bread and lentil stew, and he ate, and he drank, and he rose and went on his way. Thus Esau despised the birthright. That is what we are told. That is how it's translated into English. In most translations, follow this text as we have read it out just now. So we shall see that this translation is not exact, and when we understand it properly, we see things in a different light. First, we should know that the firstborn right, this blessing, firstborn blessing, this firstborn right, the right of the firstborn, what does it entail? So the commentators on this subject are divided, not in complete agreement with each other, but the overall consensus, the trend of agreement, is to say that the right of the firstborn involved a type of spiritual duty, a kind of priesthood. Before the Levites came along, before the time of Moses, when Moses made all the tribe of Levi to be priests in the tabernacle, before then the Israelites also had priests. The Hebrews had priests, and these priests were the firstborn of the family. He had the right, he had a certain right to the priesthood. It involved spiritual duties. This is the right of the firstborn, according to most commentators. And there's one commentator, Hiskuni, a medieval commentator. He said it also meant the worship in the temple and the land of Israel. So this does not contradict what we just said, having the right of it complements the spiritual aspect of the firstborn right of this priesthood function. What really happened when Esau sold the birthright to Jacob? What actually happened here? What happened? When initially read the text, we get the impression Esau was the hunter. He came in from the hunt. He was tired. He was dying. He felt he was dying of starvation. He saw Jacob had prepared a meal, a lentil stew, and he said, which was red in colour, and he said, "Please give me something of the stew. Please give me something to eat from this stew." And Jacob said, "First, sell me your birthright." And Esau said, "I'm going to die." Sounds like he's dying of hunger. "I'm going to die. What use is a birthright to me?" So Jacob said, "First swear to me." So he swore to him. And then Jacob gave him bread and lentil stew, and he ate and he drank and he went out. And so he despised the birthright, says the Bible. So that is how we would understand the text of the Bible at an initial reading of it. So certain points we should note here. First of all, the word translated as famished in Hebrew is if. That says if in the biblical Hebrew. If means in Hebrew tired, exhausted. Doesn't mean that he was starving. It means he was exhausted. And when he said, "Please let me have a swallow of that red stuff there," it doesn't mean what it says. In Hebrew it says halitani. Halitani means pour it down my mouth. He was so tired he couldn't move. I know, I met people like that. Some people get so tired they can't move, literally. So, and Esau was apparently in this state, and he asked that Jacob should pour it down his throat. Jacob said to him, Jacob said to him, "Swear to me this day, kahayom, like this day." In other words, it means swear to me as clear as daylight. Now and as clear as daylight. Swear to me, kahayom, now, at this time, and as clear as daylight. And Esau said, "I'm going to die. What use is a birthright to me?" What does it mean when he's going to die? And when he said it, what does it mean? Does it mean he said to Jacob? It can also mean in Hebrew that he was thinking to himself. The Bible also uses this expression, he said, to mean that he thought. So Esau, for all we know, actually thought this to himself, or it was his opinion, I'm going to die. What use is a birthright to me? We know from hints in the Bible, from the biblical descriptions, and also from traditions, that Esau was a bad man even by the standards of his time. He was violent, he used to kill people, he used to take women of other men. He used to do things which were against the basic commandments that mankind had been given at that time. And he used to do these things, and this was part of his lifestyle. He was resigned to it. He knew. He did not lack intelligence. He knew things. He realized things. He did not deny the truth, but he accepted it. He knew that the punishment, the liability for doing these things was death, meaning death. He would not have a resurrection in the world to come. He would not have a place in the world to come. This is his world, and he's going to die here, and there's going to be nothing for him beyond it. I am about to die. What use is a birthright to me? In other words, this is my life. This is how I live it. This is what I do. I'm prepared. That's okay. Okay, I'll pay the penalty. I'll do my thing. I'll do what I have to do, what I want to do, what I understand is what I am most suited to do. And I'll pay the penalty. Fair enough. But you want to give me odd penalties, odd obligations that I will not be able to fulfill, and I get nothing for it? No, that's gone a little bit too far. Therefore, what is a birthright? What good is it to me? And so he gave it to Jacob. And then it says, it's translated, and Jacob gave Esau food and gave lack of bread and food, and he ate and he drank. But according to the Bible, the biblical text says, and Jacob gave. And Jacob gave, it uses a Hebrew grammatical expression, which is unusual and should not be there. It should be Vayitain Yaakov, but instead it says Yaakov Natan. So you don't have to know this, just take my word for it and also check it out. This is according to the commentary, the explanation of the commentary known as the Kabbalah by Rabbi Mecklenburg in the 1800s, like early 1800s, and he interpreted, explained it. He said the Hebrew actually says, and Jacob had already given. Jacob had already given. Jacob, in effect, gave at the very beginning food and drink to Esau. Then he asked for the blessing, and then Esau gave it to him. And this fits in with how the biblical text is written. The grammatical structure of the biblical text fits this explanation, and it explains other things. So we're just taking these explanations in mind, and looking at the text once again, we get the following picture. Incidentally, before we go on, it's worth acknowledging that the explanation that I just gave concerning I'm about to die, of what use is the birthright to me, it is in accordance with the commentary of the Hatim Sofer, 1762 to 1839. He was a great rabbi. We use him now and again, and he's an authoritative commentator, and other commentators also say things along the same lines. So this is what it meant by I'm about to die. I'm going to end up my existence in this world. That is what he is saying. So we have now to look at the translation again in light of the points that we have mentioned, and this is what we get. Genesis chapter 25, verse 27 onwards. Then the youths were grown. Esau was a man who knew about hunting, a man of the field, but Jacob was a simple man who lived in tents, and so Jacob cooked the stew. Then Esau came in from the field and he was exhausted. Then Esau said to Jacob, please pour some of that very red stuff down my throat, for I am exhausted. Therefore his name was called Edom, red. He was red. He was called Edom. He was born red, and he did things associated with redness. It was something of his inner essence, his red aspect, the lust for blood that later was revealed in him, and for violence is also associated with the colour of the red. And so too, when he saw the stew, he had a desire from it, no compulsion to eat some of it. And Jacob said to him, sell me now your birthright in a clear-cut state. Esau said, behold, I may go to die for what are my sins. What pertinence has a birthright to me? Jacob said to me, swear to me now in a clear-cut way. So he swore to him, and he sold his birthright to Jacob. Now Jacob had already given Esau bread and a lentil stew, and he ate and he drank and he rose and went out, and so Esau despised the birthright. So that's it. Esau had come in, he was exhausted, he had asked Jacob to feed him, and Jacob had fed him, had given him. But then Jacob had requested the birthright, and Esau had given it unto him, and he said, what use is it to me? It's more of a liability than a blessing. And he swore to him and gave it to him, and he despised it. That is what the Bible is telling us, and this is what it happened then. Later, Isaac, the father of Jacob and Esau, he felt he was about to die, and he wanted to give a deathbed blessing to Esau. Now, it seems from what we find out later, that Isaac was not aware that Esau had sold the firstborn right to Jacob. And it seems obvious now that the firstborn right and the deathbed blessing were together. You could not have one without the other. Esau, when he sold the firstborn right to Jacob, he may not have been aware of it. And Isaac, when he wanted to give a deathbed blessing to Esau, may also not, on his part, not have been aware that Jacob had purchased this right from Esau. At all events, Rebekah told Jacob to dress himself up as Esau, to go in to their father, pretend to be Esau, and receive the blessing. And Jacob did that. He blessed himself up as Esau. He went in and he told Isaac that he was Esau. Isaac was blind. He couldn't see at the time. He suspected that something was wrong. He asked questions, but then maybe they were similar, not that similar. We don't actually know, but whatever, he became convinced that this was what he had to do, and he gave the blessing to Jacob. After he had finished giving the blessing, Jacob went out, and Esau came in, and Esau had prepared food for his father, and he wanted the blessing. And the father told him that he'd already given the blessing to someone else, and he would be blessed, no matter who it was. Then Esau expostulated, he protested strongly that Jacob had tricked him, that he was appropriately named, because Jacob can also connote trickery and deception and supplanting, and he was appropriately named because first he had taken the birthright blessing, first he had taken the birthright, and now he had taken the deathbed blessing. And when Isaac heard this, he was terrified, but then he said, this is the way it is. I can't do anything about it. I gave him the blessing. The blessing apparently has been confirmed by God Almighty. It is a real blessing, and it is irrevocable. He will be blessed. I'll read it out and give it a little bit more explanation of what happened, what was going on. Genesis 27, it says, verse 30, now it came about as soon as Isaac had finished blessing Jacob. Jacob had hardly gone out from the presence of Isaac his father, that Esau his brother came in from his hunting. Then he also made savoury food and brought it to his father, and he said to his father, let my father arise and eat of his son's game, of his hunting, that you may bless me. Isaac his father said to him, who are you? And he said, I am your son, your firstborn Esau. Then Isaac trembled violently. And he said, who was he that then hunted game and brought it to me? And I ate of all of it before you came and blessed him. Yes, and he shall be blessed. When Esau heard the words of his father, he cried out with an exceedingly great and bitter cry. And he said to his father, bless me even also, my father. And he said, your brother came deceitfully and has taken away your blessing. Then he said, is he not rightly named Jacob? For he has supplanted me these 2 times. He took away my birthright, and behold, now he has taken away my blessing. Then he said, that is Esau said, is he not rightly named Jacob? For he has supplanted me these 2 times. He took away my birthright, and behold, now he has taken away my blessing. And he said, have you not reserved a blessing for me? But Isaac replied to Esau, behold, I have made him your master, and all his relatives I have given to him as servants, and with grain and new wine I have sustained him. Now as for you then, what can I do, my son? Esau had cried out when he heard this. He said, is he not rightly named Jacob? For he has supplanted me these 2 times. He took away my birthright, and behold, now he has taken away my blessing. What is he saying here? What does it mean? So here we will play on words in Hebrew, which is worth hearing, it's worth listening to, it's interesting. Remember that Jacob was called Yaakov. Yaakov is the name of it, from the root Akov, meaning hill. Now this word Yaakov is called Yaakov because he grabbed hold of the hill when he came out of the womb. But this word hill, Akov, also means, has 2 other connotations, 2 other meanings in Hebrew. One is supplant or overtake. When you, or kev in Hebrew, when you're traveling in a car and you overtake another car, you okev them, you come after them. If you're running and you go after them, and you come around the hill, you okev them, you come around the back of the hill and you go in ahead of them. That is what okev means, Akov, from the same root as Yaakov. Also it means trickery, akaba, the kaka, or to do something by treachery or by trickery. And when you take something by trickery, it is also as if you come around them from behind. You take it from a roundabout way. You akev. You lokeka the ba'akaba, as so Jacob had done this twice to Esau. Esau said, is he not rightly named? For Yaakovani. He is called Yaakov and Yaakovani. He's used his heel. He's used the things associated with his heel twice against me. First he took my firstborn right. Now he's taken my blessing. And so this explains this the linguistic play on words that we have here. Also noted that Isaac in effect confirmed the blessing to Jacob even before he knew it was Jacob. He knew that it wasn't Esau, but he knew it wasn't Esau, but wasn't sure for a minute who it was. But even then he confirmed the blessing to whoever it was, because he knew that God, through it only been a conduit, through God Almighty, had wanted this blessing to fall on the person he had given it to. And then he heard that it was Yaakov, and he trembled, and then Esau said, is he not rightfully named Yaakov, because he has supplanted me, overtaken me these 2 times? And then Jacob once again, once again he confirms the blessing, because once he hears that Jacob had already taken the firstborn right, and the firstborn right is somehow connected with the blessing. Whoever has one has the other. And therefore he understood how it could be this way. So this also explains what was happening in this case here. In chapter 28, Genesis 28, verse 1, and then going on in verse 3 onwards, we find that Jacob once again blesses. We find that Isaac once again blesses Jacob. He gives him a blessing. This is after everything is happening. After he had tricked him, after he had dressed up, disguised himself as Esau and received the blessing. After all that, once again he gives a blessing to Jacob, and this time with the full knowledge of what had happened, this time with a full heart, with Yaakov before him, and knowing that it was Yaakov, he gives a blessing once again, and confirms the blessing that he had just given beforehand. As it says in Genesis 28, verse 1, so Isaac called Jacob and blessed him. And verse 3, may God Almighty bless you and make you fruitful and multiply you, that you may become a company of peoples. may also give you the blessing of Abraham to you and your descendants with you, that you may possess the land of your sojournings, which God gave to Abraham. In other words, Jacob was to be the inheritor of the blessing. Abraham, Isaac and Jacob, that was where the inheritance was to go. And Jacob was later renamed Israel. Jacob was renamed Israel, as we see in Genesis 32, verse 28 and 35:10, when we are told that Jacob was renamed Israel, that Israel became the name of Jacob, that from Israel came the 12 tribes of Israel. You can then ask, why did it have to be this way? Why did Jacob have to receive all the blessings and so on, that he was already, what we see retrospectively, we see that he was actually destined to receive them, that it was his destiny, supposed to be his from the beginning. So why did he have to get them, obtain them in such a roundabout, deceitful, underhand manner? Why did he have to disguise himself to go and to pretend to be Esau and so on? Why did it have to be like this? So it could be that this is due to its symbolic significance. The Bible tells stories, tells us what happened, and what happened is historically correct, as the Bible tells us, but it also has a message for us to tell us something. So it could be concerning the 10 tribes. The 10 tribes were that section of the Israelite nation who got lost consciousness of their ancestry, were taken away by the Assyrians and disappeared, but they remained as concrete entities, and according to our researchers, and not only our researchers, according to researchers and traditions and a lot of sources, they are now to be found amongst Western nations, and they became America and Britain and France and Holland, all important elements amongst them, and they're great empires, and they helped civilize all of mankind, and they're still doing this. And this was part of their task that they had to fulfill, and they are doing it assuming that they are Gentiles. They don't know that they're of Israelite descent on the whole. Nevertheless, they fulfill this task, and maybe they had to fulfill this task, and they had to fulfill this task as Gentiles, to go down, to descend to the level of the pagan nations, and then to rise, evolve upwards, and bring the rest of the world with them, which they have done, and America is doing, and Britain, the Western world is doing to some degree. This was part of the task of the 10 tribes. This is what the 10 tribes had to do. And in a sense, they had to lose their ancestry, lose consciousness of their ancestry, lose consciousness of who they were, and dress themselves up as pagan Gentile peoples. In the same way as Jacob had to dress himself up as Esau in order to receive the blessing. And there's more to talk about on these matters, but this is quite a lot for the time being. May the Lord God of Israel bless you all. Thank you.